Chair, and thank all of you for being here and taking time out for this. It's very important. Ms. Bell, I especially want to thank you for being here because I'm really glad to hear that the private sector is recognizing this and is involved in this, and that is climate change, because we're in the federal government, we're not going to be able to solve this problem without help from and buy-in, if you will, from the private sector. As I'm sure you're aware, some of my colleagues may be surprised to learn this, but Georgia is the #1 forestry state in the nation. That's right, 22 million acres of commercially available forest land. And that land serves multiple purposes. As you described in your testimony, Ms. Bell, it includes economic benefits to provide jobs, valued products to our economy, particularly to rural areas. There are also the ecological benefits. The forests serve as carbon sinks and habitats and natural water filters, all of that. And when most people think of preserved land, though, I think they think of federal national parks or wildlife refuge and other federally protected land, but that's not necessarily the case. Most people aren't thinking of the 30,000 acres of restored and conserved land that you have worked on. Can you go into some more detail as to what the benefits private companies bring to conserving and restoring land rather than through the federal government?
Yes, absolutely. So private sector funding is able to provide capital up front for projects, really invest a lot, put those projects on the ground, and ensure their success. And with that ensured success, payment comes through mitigation credits, compensatory mitigations, and other ecological desired outcomes. And particularly, the private sector holds themselves to standards that really were developed in conjunction with the Army Corps of Engineers and other federal and state agencies that allow and create a standard for accountability. That being that there are performance-based metrics and outcomes that are required. And Dr. Placido kind of hit on this, that we do need monitoring. We need to make sure that those projects that are put on the ground do perform as they're planned and do provide the ecosystem services that we have planned for, and that the climate and that the landscape requires and needs. And so the private sector is really able to work on those types of milestone-based projects and invest the capital in that. And there's a big incentive, which is payback. And the private sector has a lot of capital to invest in those types of projects.
Absolutely. And as you pointed out, your work actually complements the missions of regulatory agencies like EPA and the Corps of Engineers and others. Let me ask you, this particular meeting, we're concentrating on coastal resiliency, and that's extremely important, but a lot of your of Westervelt's projects are located outside of the coastal zone. How do inland restored landscapes and working systems contribute to coastal resiliency?
Yeah, I mean, I think the saying that we all live downstream is pretty important. The headwater systems do have a lot of value to coastal communities, and national forest health is really coastal forest health. 30% of drinking water flows through working forests, and forests provide protection of streams and wetlands and other valuable ecosystems that are inland that ultimately contribute to national health. And not to mention the wildlife benefits. We have anadromous and catadromous species that go more inland, and protecting those ecosystems for coastal fisheries can tie into that overall national health as well.
Well, we all know that forests are critical to solving the climate crisis. I always like to say trees are the answer. Trees are the answer. One of my favorite sayings, and you see it all throughout South Georgia. You drive through South Georgia and you'll see a sign that says, when you breathe fresh air, get down on your knees and thank the farmer who planted the trees. And it's true. They serve as carbon sinks. So how exactly do private working forests contribute and compared to other forest types?
Yeah, so, private working forests have different sustainability certifications, such as the sustainable forest initiative that really hold them to standards. And, there are skilled foresters and hydrologists and wildlife biologists that work on private working forests that ensure that they are functioning well for the ecological needs of the landscape. But also, I pointed out earlier that working private forests absorb 15% of U.S. industrial carbon emissions every year, and that they also store an additional 82 billion metric tons of CO2 equivalent, and Westervelt's forest alone have 30.4 million metric tons of CO2 equivalent stored within in terms of carbon sequestration.
Good. Well, thank you. We are going to get another round.
Yes.
Because I've got some very important questions.
Great.
Thank you. I'll yield back.